Good evening, everyone, from Meditation Mount, and we're located above the eastern end of the Ojai Valley in Southern California. And outside at the moment, a storm is raging. We've got high winds, torrential rain, probably last for a few more days. There have been flood warnings issued. It's extreme weather. So if for some reason the power goes out during our broadcast, you'll understand why. And I hadn't planned on talking about it, but because this is what's happening right now, I want to say a few words about extreme weather, because many of you have also been experiencing this. We're in different parts of the world. It seems that we are living in extreme times. And we can give all the reasons for fossil fuels and all of the other things that we pollute the atmosphere with. But one of the more important things to understand is mental pollution. We are told that energy follows thought. And maybe we should dedicate a whole broadcast to the whole process of creating substance out of thought. Because this is what happens when you send a thought into space. It has movement, and as it spirals through the different planes and densifies, it actually creates a solid, a substance that represents that which called it together. So if you send out a thought of ill will, the substance that's created is a substance that would, if you like, would be a chemical version or a material version of ill will. Therefore, it is really important that we guard our thoughts, that we remain silent unless we have something to say that is useful. I remember this wonderful sort of synthesis of the Buddhist teaching. Think, say, and do only that which is kind, helpful, and true. So as I say, we could spend a whole broadcast on understanding how we've created these psychological weather conditions that are extreme because of our extreme thinking. And by extreme, I mean separatist thinking. Because when we think in separative ways, we break the whole pattern. The pattern is no longer a wholeness. So whether it be the Gulf Stream or the other weather patterns that circulate around the planet, eventually we break them, and then they revert to their poles, they revert to their extremes. So I'll leave it at that, but there is a direct correlation between what happens on the outside and what is created and caused on the inside. I think that's what we have to understand, that everything we think, say, and do has consequences. We don't think that maybe what we say and do has a consequence, but it does. And when we together change from putting out, if you like, poisonous emissions to putting out emissions of goodness, we change the atmosphere, we change the psychic climate. So it's extreme weather here in the Ojai Valley. It's been one of those challenging days, not just weather-wise, but my computer crashed earlier, and I'm at the moment unable to retrieve some very important files. And you know how that is when it happens. It can throw you into a spin. So it's interesting that the theme today is navigating by the light of the soul. And I thought, how perfect, because it's during these times of personal disturbance that it is so essential to remain calm and aligned and to not be pulled off center by fear, self-pity, and despair. So learning to navigate by the sure light of the soul is thus an essential requirement for daily life when stuff happens. So that's, if you like, the prelude to this broadcast. So when we take the whole world into view, we could say that whether at a personal, family, organization, or national level, it feels to many of us as though daily life has become a constant and unrelenting struggle between our better angels and our inner demons. And I know for me, it's eerily reminiscent of the Hindu epic tale of the Mahabharata. Those of you who are familiar with it understand that it's Arjuna on the battlefield, and Arjuna is the soul. And Arjuna's dilemma on the battlefield of Kurukshetra is that there are two armies facing each other. He's standing in the middle. He has to choose sides. So when we go back to this dance between our better angels and our inner demons, it's up to us to choose. So which force eventually gains the upper hand and assumes control is entirely up to us. And it really depends on our ability to employ right discernment. So this is one of the paths that the Buddha talked about: right discernment, right action, there's right speech. So in this battle, so-called battle, victory is not measured by how many enemy combatants are killed, but by how much light can be released from the soul to help us overcome the darkness of a limited vision. And this limited vision has been created by our own fears, doubts, and a blind ignorance of an underlying reality that declares we are all integral aspects of the one soul and that there is no other. There's that classic little story that is told when a pupil asks the teacher, "Master, how shall we treat others?" And the teacher quietly smiled and said, "There is no other." So when we fail to realize that we are part of a unified field, and therefore our actions aren't ones that strengthen that unified field, but are ones that, if you like, strengthen the position of the particle, the isolated particle, that doesn't realize it's a part of something greater, then we've got problems. So the ageless wisdom teaching, and I'm talking about, in this instance, the Trans-Himalayan mystery tradition, which is what the Meditation Mount is founded on. This teaching indicates that humanity has now reached an evolutionary watershed. So what do I mean by that? We've reached a critical collective choice point where we either can continue to go down the rabbit hole, being trapped in materialism, which leads to the suffocation of the soul, the stymieing of the spirit and creativity of our human beingness. Or we can choose to liberate ourselves from the prison of fear and separation and allow the light of our true nature to shine forth and to guide our steps. So we'll go into how we can possibly do that, but this is what is referred to in the teachings as the facing of the first initiation by humanity. It said this is the first time in our evolutionary history that we have faced a challenge together as one global family. And that's obvious because of the technology we have. Everybody knows about everything all the time. And inside of that knowing, there are distortions of the knowing, distortions of the truth. So the initiation that we're going through, and simply initiation means you enter into a deeper space of knowing, and it's referred to once again in the Ageless Wisdom teaching. Initiation is simply a greater capacity to carry out the will of God. So this is not some sort of laurel wreath you're given or some sort of medal and then you can relax. It basically said when you've passed this test, you're able to do more. You're able to be more helpful. So the key to the first initiation is, and it's taken from the biblical text, man cannot live by bread alone, or we cannot live by bread alone. And bread is synonymous with the material plane. So what it's saying is that we need soul food. We can't be living on this addictive junk food, whether that is an unhealthy physical fare, whether it's an appetite for passing and fleeting emotional fixes, or whether it's the dogmatic beliefs and a general mindset that keeps us separate and actually keeps us in the dark about our deeper nature. So the test facing us collectively at the moment is really this movement from a state of self-centeredness to one where we open our hearts and we care for the whole of life, realizing that as we nourish the whole of life naturally nourishes all its constituent parts. That's what a living system does. It doesn't pick and choose, I'm going to give to you, not to you. A living system nourishes all of its parts. At the moment, we don't have what we would say is a healthy living system. So the needed breakthrough occurs when the presence of a greater love is ignited inside our heart. That's the key. In the teaching, it says, when this greater love is born within the cave of the human heart. And what is born within the cave of the human heart is this fire of love. And the fire of love is the central flame of our identity that burns at the center of the unified field that we call our one humanity. Now, I need to put in a disclaimer here. I often say it. Look, please don't believe a word I say unless it resonates in your heart, or unless you want to, as we say now, fact check it yourself, which simply means do your own inquiry inwardly. Because in the end, each of us have to give birth to our own understanding of what things are. And then we share it with each other and we get a common understanding. So why is it often so difficult to see clearly when faced with our daily challenges? There may be several reasons, but one reason I'd like to put forward is that when the waters of the emotional plane and the fires of our lower desires meet and merge, it creates a dense fog. And this fog temporarily obscures the light of the inner sun from illumining the path. So the task is really to dispel the darkness. And to do that, we need to awaken the soul and release the light of the soul. Because it is the light of the soul, the light of truth, together with the fire of love, that can burn off the veiling mists of Maya. As you know, if you have fog, then when the sun comes, it lifts, it dissipates the fogs. So the sun we're talking about is the inner sun of the soul. So I want to take this a step further, because collectively, I believe we're living in fog at the moment. There are bright spots, there are places where it's clear, we can see clearly, and people see clearly, but there are large parts of the human psyche collectively that are veiled, that are covered in fog. And in the Trans-Himalayan mystery tradition, and I said this is the lineage upon which we're based here at Meditation Mount, there's a very powerful statement. It says that the demise of humanity can be averted if three truths are acknowledged and applied daily as guiding principles. And so what I'd like to do is to take these three truths and unpack them with you. They're called the three recognitions, and they can be expressed as follows. Number one, to recognize the fact of the soul as our essential nature and true guiding light. Number two, a recognition of the existence of the realm of the soul as an embodied field of overlighting and all-embracing leadership, love, and wisdom. And the third recognition is a divine plan that contains the purpose, promise, and destiny of humankind and of planet Earth, because planet Earth is an evolving sentient being within the solar family. So this divine plan can be seen in the same way that a seed contains the promise and pattern of the flower to be. So there is a plan, there is a pattern. So I've just read out these three. They are named slightly differently in the Alice Bailey books, but I've sort of modified them into more language that speaks to us. But these esoteric postulates can all too easily appear as lofty statements that rely solely on faith, and they're very challenging to prove scientifically. So I will beg your indulgence now, and please allow me to respond to all of the questions that are raised by them, and to share some insights garnered over the years. I'll try to do that in a way that makes sense to me, to you. So let's start about, how do we go about describing the soul? and experiencing its presence. Sort of a trick question, because in reality, this is something that nobody else can dictate or impose upon us, because it's up to each of us to discover the nature of our own essential self through our own process of inquiry. Now, you can have somebody tell you who you are and believe in what they tell you, but in the end, for this knowing to be born inside you and this aha moment of, yes, this is who I am, this is what life is about, this has to be realized by the self-realization. So the path of self-realization requires that truths emerge from our own experience, so that our own child of wisdom is birthed from inside us and not copied, pasted, adopted from any external source. And each of us in our own way, I believe, have had a deep sense of an inner core of being that transcends our physical, emotional, and mental faculties. I think many of us have had a sense there's more to life than just what we can see. And like any relationship, it takes time, patient listening, and compassion to develop a meaningful rapport with this non-visible locus of our personal life that we're calling the soul. So this is a daily inquiry. This is why we meditate. This is why we enter the silence and listen to the song of our own soul, which is our signature tune. It can only be heard in the silence of the heart, when we've stilled all the noise from physical tension, emotional tension, mental tension. When we've stilled ourselves, we can then create this bridge of resonance with the soul and come into what I would call a resonant relationship with it. So for me, this is a sensed reality. It's an inner knowing. And I strengthen this by repeating an affirmation that's part of the Mounts lineage. And it's also a favorite mantra or affirmation of Dr. Roberto Assagioli, who was the person who inspired Meditation Mount and several other centers around the world. So I'm going to read it now and speak it. So if you wish, we can take a moment just to go inside and become silent. Let the ripples of the day just melt away. Imagine ourselves standing in a still, calm center, declaring, more radiant than the sun, purer than the snow, subtler than the ether is the self, the spirit within my heart. I am that self am I. So that's the affirmation. And for me, it confirms, reconfirms, assures, reassures, strengthens something that I've already sensed at a deep level. It's a way of bringing it more into a lived reality. So some of the other questions is, how can we possibly locate and discover the abode of the soul? Now, where does the soul live? I mean, you can't just plug soul into your navigator and it will show you where to go, the quickest route there. So here's my thought on this. I go back to Mother Nature. This is where I did a lot of my learning as an organic farmer, and just listening and being part of nature and receiving from her, the guidelines. So Mother Nature may hold a vital clue, because even here at Meditation Mount, in the gardens, the flowers are wise enough to turn their faces towards the sun each day to track, receive, and absorb its life-giving energy. So if we take that and transport that into a process for ourselves, we could say that in our spiritual quest, it may require that we also develop similar heliotropic tendencies, that's moving towards and with the sun, and that we turn our faces towards the shining countenance of the soul. which is our inner spiritual sun. And therefore, this process will allow us to receive the generous gifts of the soul's warmth, illumination, and limitless power. So it is not located anywhere physically. It's located in a more subtle dimension. And the way that we get in touch with it is through resonance, through aspiration, through, if you like, opening our heart to love. And if love lives at the heart of our soul, if it's the main quality of the soul, loving wisdom, it said, is the quality, then that will bring us into alignment. Now, I realize that we could double click on all of these and spend hours exploring, but I just want to do an overview, but also go a little in depth so that we don't just skate over the surface. So if we are indeed souls incarnated on earth with a specific purpose to fulfill, then a question naturally arises as to where we as a human species fit into the scheme of evolution. So rather than quoting some sort of esoteric treatise now, I'm going to read a favorite childhood verse of mine by Ibn al-Arabi. And this is what it sounds like. It's very simple. God sleeps in the rocks, dreams in the plants, stirs in the animals, awakens in humans. I've always loved that, because it gives me a sense of how evolution takes place. And then a couple of years ago, I suddenly realized it's time to add another line. And this is the other line. And shines in the realm of souls. So it awakens in humans and shines in the realm of souls. So my understanding that the arc of evolution is this progressive entry into greater states of wholeness, identity, and embodiment. And at the risk of providing too much information, I'd like to share some insights from the teachings using this verse we've just read to illustrate it. So the motto for Aquarius, spiritual motto this month, is water of life I am, poured forth for thirsty people. So I'm going to take some water of life here. So the first line, God sleeps in the rocks. And it's said that the mineral kingdom is the first kingdom. And all of the minerals share an etheric body. And then the second line says, dreams in the plants. This is the second realm or second kingdom of the plants. And it's said that plants, all vegetation shares a common etheric and astral or feeling body. How do we know this? Well, if ever you've read the book Secret Life of Plants, there was an example given there of an experiment done by Cleve Baxter. He was a former FBI agent, and I got to meet him many years ago at Findhorn. What he did, because he was good at conducting lie detecting tests, so he was proficient with a lie detector, he hooked up a philodendron plant to a lie detector. And then he thought that I am going to burn a hole in your leaf. And immediately there was a registration of a frequency. The plant had registered that intention towards it, and it had reacted. And he said, wow. So he did that several times. He even went into another room, and he realized that there is a relationship with the plants. I know I talk to the trees, I talk to my plants, I know they talk to me. The thing is, how do we understand their language? It's a language of love and gratitude. But I remember when I first read that, and because I lived at the Findhorn community as well as a gardener, the whole thing of understanding that we have a living relationship with plants through this feeling body, through this astral body. Now, the third line says, stirs in the animals. This is the third realm of the animals. And the animals share a common etheric, astral, and lower mental. So you can see how it's building. Starts off with the minerals, etheric, plants, etheric, astral, animals, etheric, astral, lower mental. And this is what we see in the herd instinct. Or I was watching yesterday in the skies here above the Ojai Valley, a flock of birds just moving and dancing together as one. We've all seen that. It's just amazing. So nobody's saying turn left, turn right. It's just that they're part of this collective dance. And then the fourth line says, awakens in humans. And the human realm is the fourth realm. And what we share as humans is a common etheric, a common astral, a common mental, and a common soul body. There's one human soul. And each of us are aspects of that soul. And then I added this additional line of shines in the realm of souls. So what is the realm of souls? It's referred to in the teachings as the fifth kingdom or the fifth realm. And it has a common etheric, astral, mental, soul, and a common fiery subtle body that is the fire of love and wisdom. And then there are even higher realms that are really outside of our immediate reach because of our current understanding. So I will leave it there because I want to focus on the soul and the realm of souls. So when we talk about souls and talk about human beings, and if there's one human soul, why are we all so different? And the question often comes up as whether we are all made equal, because it seems like there are many different levels of maturity that are evident within our human family. Some people are rich, some people are poor, some people have a high IQ, some people have a low IQ. So aren't we made equal? So it's said that at the deepest level, on the plane of the monad, which is the spark of identity that lives at the nuclear heart of our essential nature, we're all equal. However, incarnated in time and space, these monadic sparks land and germinate and express and reveal themselves through temporal forms that exist in different stages of development and unfolding. So it's just if you're sowing seeds in a garden, the seeds you put in first may grow quicker than the seeds you put in later. And so at the deepest level, yes, we are all equal. However, we are all here to realize that deep nature. And rather than being in competition with each other, where I feel I'm better than somebody else or somebody else is better than me, and it really bothers me, that we're here to help each other become this one incarnated, realized soul of humanity. So this may take thousands of years, but it takes away the whole pressure to be the best. Now, I can give the best to the whole, but to be the best as a separate ambition to be better than somebody else. I can be my best in order to give to the whole. So this goes back to this whole shift when we move from being egocentric to ecocentric. So let me say a little bit more about the human realm. We're the fourth kingdom, and number 4 is always the midway point in the spectrum, the sevenfold spectrum. So number 4 is where heaven and earth meet. And so the promise of the human realm is that spirit and matter can interact. And once again, the biblical term of bringing heaven down to earth and raising earth to heaven. And it all happens within the domain of the human species. That's the potential. And without going into all the technical details, here's the shorthand version. Here's the executive summary of how the soul of humanity came into being. So the highest fire of the monad could not enter the lower fire of earth, the animal realm. And so a bridging element was created to allow human consciousness to emerge. So it's as though you've got spirit and matter, and they couldn't make the connection. the connection was to create a new realm called the human realm. And this, in the Ageless Wisdom teachings, is called the birth of the individualization of the human being. It's when this great event happened, it said 18 million years ago. This is the story of the fire of Prometheus coming down. This is where the fire of the heavens landed on Earth inside a human species. Now, once again, don't take my word for any of this. You can look it up in The Secret Doctrine, Blavatsky's works. You can go to many of the esoteric texts that talk about this. And it's the story of the promise of our humanity. So I like to say that the soul was formed to receive the fire of heavens and bring it to earth, and also allow the evolving consciousness of earth to grow up from the ground and through our human experience relate to spirit. Now, there's a lovely story told about the birth of the human soul. And I'll give you, once again, the short version. So, what do you make a soul out of? What matter do you make a soul out of? It's got to be made out of a matter that can relate to the highest fire and the fire of earth. And so what happened, so it's told in the story, there was a group of devas, of angelic beings, called the Manasa devas, or the devas of pure mind, who had perfected the mind and the mental stuff so that it could be used to receive the higher fire and then translated into the lower mind of the animal man. So the Manasa Devas said, we're going to give humanity a birthday present. We're going to offer the substance of our own beingness as the stuff out of which the soul of humanity can be spun and woven. I mean, that's a sort of a prosaic way of doing it. It was really a birthday present to humanity. So when this was created, suddenly you had, in the human species, all three components present for the first time. You had the fire of spirit, you had the fire of the soul, solar fire, and you had the fire of earth, the fire by friction. So it's said that humanity is the first instance of all these fires, all these potentials, all these three aspects of life being in one complete package. So I know there's a lot there. Once again, you can do your own research. In the Alice Bailey writings, the three fires of the cosmos that are reflected through our planetary logos, or the being that embodies the planet, they're called electric fire, which is the fire of will or Shambhala, the monadic fire of spirit; solar fire, which is the fire of love, which is held in the heart of the fifth realm, the fifth kingdom; and the fire by friction, which is the fire of matter that we're so accustomed to here on earth. So the reason for saying that is just to not attempt to explain something technically, but to portray something magnificent, something that is beyond our ken, beyond our understanding, the whole mystery of life. We can sense a magnificent continuum of divine expression that stretches from the dense physical plane that we're familiar with all the way to the highest fiery frequency of divine will and purpose. And all these different levels, these frequency bands, are called kingdoms or realms. And I like to think of creation as a multi-dimensional ecosystem. And a lot of it goes unregistered by our human senses, and therefore it's not surprising that we're unaware of these so-called invisible realms of creation. So I want to come back and focus now briefly, and hopefully this is not too dry for you, the nature of the realm of souls, the fifth kingdom, because it's the key to the second recognition. The first recognition was the recognition of the soul. The second recognition was the recognition of the fifth kingdom, the realm of souls.
Now, it's been referred to by different names throughout history, such as the communion of saints in Christianity, the spiritual hierarchy and the masters of wisdom in the ageless wisdom tradition. It's been called the rishis and mahatmas of the Vedic path, and it's been given a general tag name of the illumined ones. And my dear friend Donald Keyes, who was the founder of Planetary Citizens, a UN-based NGO, called this sphere of higher awareness and consciousness, this fifth realm, he called it the land of postgraduate humans. And I really like his description, as it seems to hint at the real story of what it takes to inhabit this neighboring level. And I believe that this level, this fifth kingdom, is the kingdom to which we are aspiring, and towards which we are evolving. So, what does it mean to be a resident of this fifth realm? You could say that a resident might be described as one who has cleared away all the blockages and the distortions from within their own individual field of consciousness, so that the personality is fused with the soul. Therefore, its light radiates unhindered. So for me, this fifth kingdom, this kingdom of the soul, represents the full flowering of the promise held within the heart of our humanity, because it's our next destination on the spiral journey. And a couple of weeks ago, we celebrated Martin Luther King. We're in Black History Month at the moment in February. And I would venture to say that this fifth realm constitutes a complete realization and expression of what Martin Luther King referred to in his dream of creating beloved community. So beloved community could be seen as a coherent congregation of human hearts united in love as a force for good. That's the dream of the realization of beloved community. So when our society, when our one human family becomes a beloved community, I believe that in the fourth and the fifth can merge, and we can then move into a whole new state of being. So, meanwhile, back here on Earth, inside this temporal matrix, we are inside the fourth kingdom, the human kingdom. And we have our daily struggle to master the skills that will help us establish right human relations, that will help us cultivate non-attachment to materials. This is the Buddha's message, non-attachment. Not just material things, but attachment to emotional and mental forms. And also, our work is to generally clean up the unillumined personal patterns and unhelpful behaviors that constitute our shadow. So when we talk about the shadow, it's not some sort of evil being. It really is the sum total of the unredeemed aspects of our earthly self. And in the Ageless Wisdom teaching, it's also called the dweller on the threshold. So this goes back to what we said before about the initiation. An initiation, you have to enter through a portal. And standing at the portal, guarding it, is a dweller on the threshold. So as we approach the portal, the dweller on the threshold says, you can't enter yet. You're not ready. You're not whole enough. You're not clean enough. Now, this is not some evil entity stopping us enter into our God-given state. It's basically saying, look, the only way you can enter this new portal is by acknowledging, accepting, and taking responsibility for all the things you've done in the past that were the unenlightened aspects of yourself. So it's giving us an opportunity to clean up our act. So what we're doing at the moment, as we stand at this first initiation collectively, I believe we are facing the planetary dweller on the threshold. So all the things we see and hear and feel in the news, in our communities, all the things that are welling up that look like aspects of darkness, these are the things that we're being invited to bring light to redeem. So I would say then that this shadow, this dweller, is an entity that is our own nature, and it guards the portal on the path of enlightenment. So it really is an opportunity to clean up our act individually and collectively. So I see planet Earth as this vast schoolroom that we're enrolled in. It's if you like, a graduate program. We're learning how to become love, how to become wise, how to become this fifth realm. And all I can say is, thank goodness, we've got the guidance of mentors from the realm of souls, the fifth kingdom. So we in the fourth have got mentors from the realm of souls, the fifth realm. And the beauty is that they have successfully traveled the same challenging paths that we presently find ourselves on. So everything we're going through, all our struggles, they have been through them and they've overcome them. And they've become realized. They've cleaned up their act. They no longer have a shadow. They are light-filled beings, and the realm of the soul is a unified realm, a lighted realm of love and wisdom. That's my sense. So I would say, what better mountain guides and spiritual Sherpas to lead us on this journey on earth than those who have already successfully made the ascent? And I believe they stand ready, willing, and able to help all their fellow travelers. So my sense is there is so much more today that I will probably leave the third recognition, which is the recognition of the divine plan, to next month's broadcast. So let me just begin to wrap up today, because I've already put a lot of stuff in the field and I don't want to cause any spiritual indigestion. So the ageless wisdom also indicates that one of the major tasks of humanity is building a path of consciousness. It's called a rainbow bridge that connects the fourth and the fifth. Just as the same way as we as individuals are aligning our personality with our soul, and through meditation, creating this rainbow bridge so we become in resonant relationship between our soul and its earthly component, its earthly representative. So in the same way, we're being asked to build this bridge between the fourth and the fifth realms so that we can have a living experience. And through this bridge, the flood of light from the fifth kingdom can infuse our earthly planes. And it's one of the ways we can help to dispel the darkness, by bringing in the power of our own soul and calling upon the power of the realm of souls. Now, a lot of people, it doesn't make sense, but if you step back and say, this rainbow spectrum of realms that we've named, all the different kingdoms, they're the different aspects of the one planetary life. They're the different levels and different aspects of its body. So cooperation, seen in this context, between the fourth and the fifth realm, could be seen as life evolving by communing with itself in a deeper and more intentional way than ever before. So it's not just us trying to commune with another level. If you step back and look at it as a wholeness, it's really life making this connection between the fourth and the fifth, so that the planetary life can be better informed, better connected. So we have a vital role in providing the living link so that the planet can evolve. Not just we as humans, we're part of the evolution of the planet as a living being. And building this bridge between the fourth and the fifth is a way that we can create a connective tissue, and we can create a living link that will allow more energy to circulate through the planetary body and more awareness to flood into the great being that holds this planet. So collectively, we're being called to be sons of God, S-U-N-S, and to shine our light in the darkness. It's interesting to note that in some of the spiritual texts, humans have been referred to as gods in the making. If you like, we're divine apprentices. We're learning the art and science of being co-creators inside this generative mystery we call life. So once again, let's step back and look at ourselves and realize that we are so much more than how we're currently behaving. It's like breaking free of the ignorance, breaking free of this illusion of separation. And when this new light of understanding dawns, then we can embrace more of life, more of each other, more of who we are. So we need to be able to speak and act with conviction and authenticity. So the only way you can be authentic is to have a living relationship with something. And that's really what we're saying today. A living relationship with the soul, a living relationship with the realm of souls. Those are the first two recognitions that are named, that are needed. And you can see how when these take place, it shifts everything on the planet. So the reason it's important is that I believe if the reality of the soul and the reality of the realm of souls is not widely recognized, that we actually run the risk of traversing these dark passages we currently find ourselves in without the lighted aid of this indispensable navigational instrument that is soul light. It's like we're caught in some astral Groundhog Day movie where we just keep going round and round. The only way to break out is to have the darkness be broken and dispelled by the light of the soul. Now that requires daily practice. So as I said, I think next month in our broadcast, we'll continue our exploration of these three recognitions, and we'll focus on the third one, which is the divine plan. So it's probably a lot and enough. I think we've been going for 45 minutes now, and that's always a good chunk of time. So what I'd like to say is all of this has to be lived and experienced ourselves. You can take what I've said as a theory, something to test out, as a possibility, but until it comes alive in us through our own lived experience, we don't own it. We can adopt it, but we truly own it, and it becomes who we are when we have that aha moment that says, yes. When we look out at nature and see great beauty, and suddenly we realize the planet's alive. And this beauty is an expression of some deep truth and deep reality. The color and the shape and the smell, the perfume of the flowers, the birds that fly, the animals, the cloud formations, the rivers, the air. Once we understand the magnificence of this ecosystem that we are incarnated on, the planet Earth, life changes. And then occasionally we have to stop and think that the planet Earth isn't just some static platform. We're this incredible sphere with this cargo on board of all these beings, and we're moving through space, and we're on this journey into infinity. We're in this journey into greater states of awareness, identity, and embodiment. That is what I believe the evolutionary journey is about. And if we do it, and when we do it consciously, we become conscious co-creators. Otherwise, we're just passengers going along for the ride. No, we're co-creators. We actually get to be part of this great journey. And as I said before, when I talked about what does it mean to shift from being a human being to becoming a Gaian, which means somebody with earth awareness, I said that a human being tends to walk upon the earth and treat everything else as external. A Gaian understands that I live inside the whole earth, and the whole earth lives inside of me. I am in fact, a fractal of this earth. And the bottom line that I'll end with today is that a human being lives on the earth. A Gaian, which is this movement towards the realm of souls, the fifth kingdom, a Gaian lives as the earth. So really the invitation is not just to live on the earth, but to live as the earth, to live as the love and the light of the soul. And to do that, we have to give birth to that. And birth only happens through relationship. So I guess that's what the bottom line is: establishing right relationship with ourselves, with others, and with the whole of life. So thank you. And may all of you who are in the middle of this storm here in Southern California, and also right up the coast to California, I think it even stretches up to the Oregon border, may we all be safe here and all other places around the world where extreme conditions, whether they be weather conditions or brought about by war, famine, strife. May the Spirit of grace bless us all, and may the light of the soul shine in the darkness and light our way. Thank you from Meditation Mount. I appreciate us journeying together, and we'll see each other next month. Namaste.